Hello everybody, it's me, Jiozak. Today, I'll be talking about both of the budget options of the Nintendo 3DS family, the OG 2DS and the somewhat recently released new 2DS XL. I've used both for long enough to be able to give a somewhat coherent comparison. Despite what I've titled this script, I won't be saying which system is undoubtedly better. Instead, I will just be explaining and demonstrating the differences between the systems, and letting you, the viewer, draw your own conclusions. Although I will interject a bit here and there to point out something I did or did not like, as well as providing some interesting trivia here and there about the systems. By the by, I will refer to the OG 2DS as just simply the 2DS, and this the new 2DS XL. Just looking at these systems side by side, you can tell they're vastly different. The 2DS is basically just an OG 3DS, but with all the buttons and circle pad moved up, as well as the fact that it cannot fold like every other 3DS or DS system. This does make it more difficult to slip into most pockets, so if you're planning on taking it around with you, I'd highly recommend slipping it into some sort of case to help protect the always exposed screens. Some people have joked about the look of the system, saying that it looks like a doorstop, but because of how everything is positioned, you are given much more system to grab onto when playing compared to even the XL systems. Personally speaking, it has been the most comfortable system for me to hold and play on because of this wedge design. Especially with how massive they made the L and R buttons. For games like Mario Kart 7, they're really good. By the way, the method Nintendo took to still allow you to enter sleep mode on the 2DS is by pushing this sleep slider on the bottom of the system. A simple push, and it goes to sleep. Onto the new 2DS XL. It looks much more in line with every other 3DS system. In other words, it can fold. Despite it being an XL system, it can still fit into most jean or sweatpant pockets, and from my experience, many shorts pockets. Some people online have complained about how they put their new 2DS XL in their pocket, and they pull it out later in the day to see that the top screen is obliterated. However, I've always brought my main 3DS with me literally wherever I go, and as you can see, I haven't run into this issue. I really don't see how this could happen, unless it's in your pocket and you repeatedly thrust it into a concrete wall. Really, as long as you take care of it, it will be fine. Anyway, you might have been able to notice that along with the standard face and shoulder buttons, plus control pad and circle pad, there are these extra smaller shoulder buttons and this weird gray nub above the ABXY buttons. These are the ZL and ZR shoulder buttons and C-stick, which I will get more into in the software section. For now, I'll say that they allow for extra game control in certain games. Under the hood, the new 2DS XL has some extra stuff that the 2DS lacks, like a built-in NFC reader-writer for amiibo figurines and cards. If you want to scan in an amiibo on the 2DS, you'll need the NFC reader-writer accessory, which at the time of this recording are actually kinda pricey for whatever reason. However, you can just plop an amiibo on the new 2DS XL's touchscreen to scan it in, making the new 2DS XL a more convenient option over the 2DS if you don't want to worry about carrying around an extra peripheral. The new 2DS XL also boasts more processing power compared to the other models of the 3DS, or in this case, the 2DS. This provides some actually really nice benefits that I will touch on shortly. Some additional things to note: the 2DS uses regular-sized SD cards for storing digital games, DLC, music, and pictures, whereas the new 2DS XL uses microSD cards. The fact that they use different sized cards doesn't really mean anything, unless if you are looking to expand the storage of your system, which you may want to do if you're going to be buying many digital titles, as they both ship with 4GB cards, which isn't a whole lot if you're buying a lot of full retail games digitally. They both use the same charger, and they both come with chargers in the box, which is nice if this is your first 3DS, as the new 3DS and new 3DS XL do not ship with chargers. Beats me why they did that, concerning the fact that they're the more expensive systems. Looking at the styluses, you can clearly see that the one for the 2DS was actually designed to be used by human hands, whereas the new 2DS XL stylus is quite a bit shorter. This is thanks to where it's stored on the system. Because it's stored vertically, it has to be short. Personally though, I just prefer to use one of my larger styluses regardless of what system I'm using. The speaker situation is interesting on both of these systems. The 2DS has only a single speaker, allowing for mono sound. The new 2DS XL has two speakers, but they are downward facing and honestly a little bit weaker than the single speaker on the 2DS. Again, this doesn't bother me as I prefer to use headphones whenever I can, and I've had an identical experience using headphones on any 3DS. Quick tip, by the way, the 2DS is set defaulted to output mono sound, and every other 3DS, including the new 2DS XL, is set defaulted to output surround sound. I recommend changing from surround sound to stereo, as the surround sound on the 3DS just makes it sound tinny and honestly kinda bad. For the 2DS, I recommend using stereo when using headphones, and use mono when using speaker audio. How could I go on any further without mentioning the elephant in the room? The screen sizes. The new 2DS XL boasts a 4.88-inch top screen and a 4.18-inch bottom screen, whereas the 2DS has a 3.53-inch top and a 3.02 bottom panel. Even though the new 2DS XL has larger screens compared to the 2DS, they both have the same screen resolution, being 800 by 240 on the top and 320 by 240 on the bottom, which can make things on the new 2DS XL screen appear more jagged or pixelated compared to the 2DS's smaller screen. But if you're not actively looking for it, it's not a huge issue. Fun fact, the 2DS technically only has one screen. It's just divided physically by the outer shell to create the illusion that it's actually two screens. I won't compare battery life too much, as the new 2DS XL tends to outlast the 2DS generally speaking. However, there is one thing to note. The new 2DS XL doesn't technically have a user-replaceable battery. With every other 3DS and DS, including the 2DS, you can unscrew the back plate or compartment to access and easily replace the battery. But you can't do that with the new 2DS XL. This must be the new direction Nintendo is taking with batteries, as the Switch doesn't have an easily replaceable battery either. I have a couple more comparisons to make, but they're a bit shorter than the others, so let's move on to the lightning round. The face buttons and plus control pad on the 2DS feel mushy compared to the buttons on the DS Lite, whereas the new 2DS XL's buttons and plus pad are clicky, more in line with every other 3DS and non-DS Lite. The new 2DS XL's volume slider clicks into the mute position, whereas the 2DS doesn't. The new 2DS XL lacks any sort of wrist strap or charm loops, but the 2DS has two on either side of the system. And finally, the new 2DS XL has a physical cover over the game card and SD card slots. The 2DS has the game card slot exposed. Now that we have all the hardware comparisons out of the way, now we can move on to software. The operating systems are more or less identical on both systems, except that the new 2DS XL has a power saving mode. However, I do want to bring up game compatibility. You see, as the new 2DS XL has extra processing power, there are certain games that run better on it compared to the 2DS, and some games that are only playable on new 3DS systems, including the new 2DS XL. Here's a list of games that I know of that benefit from the extra processing power of the new 2DS XL. And here are some games that can only be run on the new hardware. I'll be providing a more detailed list about these titles in the description. Other than the new 3DS/2DS exclusive titles, both systems can run the same games. This includes the frankly massive library of Nintendo DS titles. This coupled with the current 3DS library and eShop titles and Virtual Console library makes even the budget-focused 2DS a great way to have the ability to play thousands of fantastic games. And a lot of bad ones if you're masochistic.
DS. A copy of Deal or No Deal for the Nintendo DS.
Touching back on the difference in processing power, this doesn't affect just certain games, but the OS itself. This means that the new 2DS XL is faster when switching between software compared to the 2DS. A weird oddity about this is that with new 3DS enhanced games, like Smash Bros., when you close out of them on the new branded hardware, will close normally. When closing them on older systems like the 2DS, it will actually cause the system to reboot? Yeah, it's rather strange, but it's just something that it does, so keep that in mind. Also, if you suspend certain new hardware-optimized games on the old hardware, in this case, the 2DS, and attempt to access the web browser, you can't. The new hardware doesn't have this issue. If you do have the new hardware and are using it to watch YouTube, I'd recommend actually deleting the YouTube app from your system and instead using the web browser. It provides extra options, as well as higher image quality than the 3DS YouTube app. However, if you have the old hardware, your only option for watching YouTube on it is through the 3DS app. One more additional piece of information that I want to provide. I want to bring up the pricing of both systems. The new 2DS XL is priced at $149.99, whereas the 2DS is priced at $79.99. Not only is the 2DS much more inexpensive, but almost any 2DS you buy has some sort of game pre-installed on the system, like Mario Kart 7 or New Super Mario Bros. 2. This does make the 2DS more of a value system, although you are going to be missing all the new hardware enhancements that are in the new 2DS XL. If you're wondering which system I prefer, it's the new 2DS XL, mostly for all the new hardware enhancements. This does not mean that I think the 2DS is bad. It's still a really good system, especially for the value. As long as you're willing to put up with the 2DS's quirks, like the lack of a hinge to fold it, you should have a pleasant time with the 2DS. That's about all the differences that I wanted to bring up. If any of you have additional differences or comparisons you wanted to bring up, or if you want to expand on something that I touched on, feel free to leave them in the comments. Anyways, that'll be it for me for now. I will see all of you later.